Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast. This is your escape for real, unscripted conversations about sports, hobbies, life, and storytelling. No scripts, no forced takes, just Man Cave talk. Now, here's your host, Dan Kasper.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of the Man Cave Podcast. Dan Kasper here with you, as always, for every episode of the Man Cave Podcast. It is opening day. We are recording this on opening day. I know last night we had Yankees, Giants, and such, but this is opening day. So we have got all baseball-themed Man Cave Podcast coming at you. And, you know, anybody who knows me knows I'm a Packers guy. All right, I'm a big Packers guy. My man cave, majority, I'd say 85% of it is Packers themed stuff, Packer stuff, mixed in with a few other items, outdoors, hunting, fishing, a little baseball, a little golf, a little hoops and such. But it's, 85% Packers. But I will say, I think over the last few years, I've grown a greater appreciation for baseball. And honestly, it probably goes back to college when Brewers, and to be fair, the Brewers are my team too. Brewers started to get a little bit more relevant, okay? You know, Ryan Braun, Prince Fielder and such, 08, it was just awesome, you know, finally playing well, and 08 making the playoffs. And so that kind of got going, you know, really getting into beer league, slow pitch softball. So that's when I think it kicked in, you know, my baseball fanism, still Packers. But then I would say it upped it another notch, if you will, in the last couple of years, because my son Hudson, who you see on the Kid Cave, really got into baseball too. And I think, you know, just kind of helping him with T-ball and Little League and such, and watching him play, you know, some travel ball and such. I think that really kind of maybe lit that fire or relit it a little bit more. And honestly, I think if you were to ask me, you know, my favorite teams or favorite sports and such, baseball is probably number 2 right now. You know, can make the case that golf kind of replaced that for a little bit. But I mean, there's just, I know opening day is just one game. It's just, you know, 162 of these things to go in the regular season. Then you get the long postseason and such. But there's just something about opening day where I think even if you're just maybe a casual baseball fan and you're not the diehard fan, it just puts you in a good mood. Maybe it's because it's spring, summer's right around the corner, a little bit warmer weather and such, changing of the seasons and that. I don't know. It's just it's something about opening day. And, you know, baseball, I think, too, is a sport that if you're into sports, maybe you're not the biggest baseball fan. I think we all have a small piece of it in our hearts and our souls, though, because I think for a lot of us, maybe not everybody, but for a lot of us, and it was the case for me, baseball was our first opportunity to play an organized team sport. You know, T-ball was for me, T-ball, Little League and such. You know, when I was younger, we didn't have organized basketball youth leagues or teams like we do now. We didn't have flag football for young kids when I was younger. It was, you know, if you wanted to play a team sport, it was baseball. It started off as T-ball, and then obviously like coach pitch, and then, you know, Little League and kid pitch and all that sort of stuff. And then I think when you got, you know, you had your individual sports and such. And it's not to say we didn't play team sports like basketball or football when we were kids, but organized, where you're actually a part of a team and such, not just your recess teams or your backyard teams and that. And then, you know, you had your individual sports and such and whatnot. But, you know, and that was probably it for me too. Like when I got older and played different sports, I'll admit it, I lost interest in baseball. But there was probably always that small part that, yeah, it's always going to kind of stick with you. And maybe it's growing up in a smaller neighborhood, smaller towns and such, where baseball, I mean, you go around and you see all these fields, you go to, bars and you see all these baseball fields and softball fields and such. I mean, when I was in Little League, shout out to the Whittlesey Lions, but, it was baseball's, a lot of these communities are probably built on that. You still have, summer leagues where players, they're still playing baseball in age 30s and such. It's just, I think for that, and that's another sport too, where you can play on organized teams still. If you're not, basketball, yeah, you got Y League, you got Rec League and all that. You can do some flag football leagues depending on where you're at. But you look at baseball teams across, well, at least for like the state of Wisconsin, you've got your summer league teams, all these small towns that still have baseball teams. And it's unique in that. And that's why, football, I think, is the most popular sport in the USA right now. But baseball is still America's pastime because you see people still playing it from, the beginnings of a T-ball to, these summer leagues. And it's unique in that aspect. Yes, you can still play golf. Yes, you can still do tennis. You can do those individual sports. But from a team aspect, baseball is so unique in that. And that's why, to me, it is still and will always be America's pastime because of the longevity of it. And we're still fans of it. And it is a sport with all the advances in technology where you stream it, watch it, go to it. It is, and maybe I'm biased in this, but it is the best sport to listen to on the radio, where you could put it up on the radio, go on your back deck, get a cooler, have the grills going, and listening to a ball game on the radio. To me, when I go to a game, whether, I love Lambeau Field, okay? I mean, I love it. Lambeau Field is one of my favorite places in the world. I still get goosebumps and I still get chills going to Lambeau Field and such. But if I had to pick an environment to go watch a game, I might pick a baseball game. It's a little bit more chill. It's a little bit more relaxed. But if you are like going to a playoff game and such, the environment could be insane. It could be awesome. And it's just, yeah, I think I've grown a bigger appreciation for baseball over the last few years and such. So, and I think there's no question about it. When you talk about, sports movies and such, baseball's king. All right. I mean, you've got, all right, well, here's my top 5. All right. My top 5 baseball movies of all time. I'll go in order. Let's go number 5. Well, first of all, let me do this in my head because I'm doing it on the fly, unscripted, right? So, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go 1 through 5 because that's going to be easier. Number 1 for me is Sandlot. It's just that to me. I love the scene with Babe Ruth coming in, Benny the Jet Rodriguez, one of my favorite lines. I actually have this line up in my man cave. Heroes get remembered, legends never die. Follow your heart, kid. You'll never go wrong. I have the legends never die part up in my man cave, but I love that. And that was such a movie I watched all the time at my grandma's on tape, on VHS tape, kids. So Sandlot to me will always have a special place in my heart. I love that movie. That is number 1. Number 2 is Field of Dreams. I think that one means more to me now, too, because of me being a dad, but I always loved it. It's a great movie, but now you add in the dad aspect to it. Love Field of Dreams. I want to go to Field of Dreams. I've never been to that field before. It is definitely on my bucket list. Number 3 is Major League. Got to have a little comedic relief in that thing, so Major League is number 3 for me. Those are like top 3. Bull Durham I'd probably put at 4. And then number 5, probably A League of Their Own. I really like that one. Honorable mentions, I got to throw The Natural in there. Major League 2, I think, is a little underappreciated. Bad News Bears. The Rookie, I think, is another fantastic one. So, yeah, those are probably the ones that are off the top of my head. But you can't. There's, Oh, and I got to put this one as an honorable mention for love of the game. I mean, we all know Kevin Costner is a GOAT when it comes to being in baseball movies and such too, but we could probably do a top 10 list when it comes to baseball movies, right? I mean, that's the thing. So, but yeah, I mean, this is baseball and boxing are probably, in my opinion, the two best sports movie, genres out there. There's a few basketball ones, Hoosiers, Coach Carter. There's a few football ones, Remember the Titans, Any Given Sunday, Varsity Blues, and that. Nothing tops baseball. Boxing's next. All the Rocky movies, Raging Bull, throw in Creed in there too. So, but baseball is the king. Baseball is the master at it. And I think when you look at all the different sports that we've seen throughout the years, the constant changes. Baseball has been the closest. Baseball has made some drastic changes, no question about it. And I think that's part of why you have so many fans who don't want these changes all the time when it comes to baseball. But compared to football and basketball and such, baseball has maybe been a little bit more constant, where a lot of the main core, the main elements of that game are still there. Like the biggest thing, one of the things I complain about when it comes to football is what's a catch, right? And if we're going to have kids playing the game at recess or in their backyards with their friends and such, and then all of a sudden now you got kids arguing saying that's not a catch, we got to do replay, that's technically not a catch. If we can't define it when kids are playing it, we're doing a disservice for the game. And now you got the NBA with basketball. Everybody now wants to shoot 35-footers instead of working on fundamentals and such. Baseball, it's still the same thing. You got to learn to throw. You got to learn to pitch. You got to learn to hit. You got to learn to hit the cutoff man. All that stuff is still the same. Whereas football and basketball and that has changed so much. Priorities have changed for younger kids and such. And I just think it's imperative for youth coaches and baseball people, because baseball has the advantage where a lot of our younger kids, the first introduction to an organized team for them is baseball, t-ball, little league, or whatever. They have that advantage. They got to figure out how to keep that interest. They got to figure out, because you do see numbers go down when you're kind of in that 12, 13, 14 age range. How do you keep kids interested in baseball? And I get it. Other sports, they're more faster paced. There's other options to do. Baseball could be a little slow and boring. They want something more. But how do you keep it going? Some, they'll always be in their blood. It'll always be their passion. But how do you keep those younger fans always engaged? That's the main question. That's why I think you're seeing baseball trying all these different rules and such, whether we like it or not, or alterations to the game. But I think that's honestly why you're seeing a lot of that stuff. So, and then maybe it's just kind of like me, where, yep, it was my first introduction and I enjoyed it, lost interest in it, got older, got back into it. Maybe it's like that. So, but with it being opening day, I mean, for crying out loud, we got to do, some predictions, right? We got to do some predictions here. How do you see this season playing out? Let me know. Hit me up in the comments, or hit me up with an email, mancavepodmail@gmail.com. Hit me up at facebook.com/DanCasperSports, Instagram as well. But these are my predictions, all right? I'm going to go through division winners, your wild card teams, and I'm going to go Cy Young and MVPs. How about that? All right. So let's start off with the American League. The AL East, top to bottom, is the best division in all of baseball. I think you could see all 5 teams with winning records, but only one can stand. I'm going to go Toronto wins that division with the AL East. AL Central, I think all the pressure is on the Tigers. With the uncertainty of the future of Skubal and such, I think all the pressure is on the Tigers to win that division this year. But I'm going to go Royals. I'm going to go Royals with this one. I think, when Hudson and I did a Kid Cave podcast, I picked the Tigers still, but I'm going to change it. I'm a big Bobby Witt Jr. fan, and I'm going to go with the Royals this year. So, and then the AL West, I think the A's are a much improved team, but I think the Mariners are the cream of the crop of that division. So I'm going to go with the Mariners for that one. And then that leaves us with some wild card teams. Should we do? Yeah, let's do the wild card teams for the AL in before we get to the National League. So there are 3 wild card teams here. I'm going to go. I don't think anybody else in the AL West is going to go besides Seattle. I will go Tigers to take one of those wild card spots, and then it's Yankees and Red Sox. So I'll go with those 2. I'll go with those 3. So again, my AL picks: division winners Toronto, Kansas City, Seattle. Wild card teams: Yankees, Boston, Tigers. National League, NL East, a lot of people like the Braves in this one. I'm still going to go with the Phillies. They're still, you still got Bryce, you still got JT, you still got, Schwarber and such. So I'm going to go with the Phillies to win the NL East. The Central, I'm going to go with the Cubbies. I just think, they're going to get it done this year, and I'll get back to that division here in a second. The NL West is the Dodgers. I mean, come on. So I think that would be the biggest surprise in baseball if the Dodgers do not win the NL West this year. The 3 playoff teams, I am going to go Brewers. I think the Brewers get back to the postseason, but they're going to be a wild card team this year. And then I'm going to go with the Mets. And I'm going to go with the Padres. My one pick of a team that I think is going to underperform this year is the Braves. I don't know why. I'm just going to go that route. So, again, my National League picks: Mets, Cubs, Dodgers, and then wild card teams, Brewers. Or no, excuse me, back up. My NL East division winners is Phillies, Cubs, Dodgers. Then my wild card teams are Mets, Brewers, Padres. So it's 2-2-2. How that works out. MVP, I mean, Shohei. It's Shohei in the National League. It tells somebody, I don't know what somebody could do to unseat him at this point. With what he is the best baseball player in the world, and probably will be the best baseball player that I have witnessed in my lifetime, and that is over Ken Griffey Jr. at this point. I love Junior and that, but it's just what Ohtani does is it's unbelievable. It really is. So I think, if you had to pick Ohtani or the field for the NL MVP, I'm probably picking Ohtani. So in the American League, I got the Royals go to the playoffs. So you know what? I'm going to go Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt Jr. for my American League MVP. Cy Young Award, I'm going to change it up. I said something a little bit different on the radio show, on my radio show. I went with Cole Reagans as AL as the Cy Young, but I'm gonna go Garrett Groshette for this one. I'm gonna switch it over to Garrett Groshette from the for the Red Sox. So those are my American League. Oh wait, yeah, Garrett. Okay, so I'm getting myself confused now. MVP is Ohtani in the National League. Bobby Witt's the MVP in the American League. Garrett Groshette is the Cy Young winner for the American League. Paul Skeens is the Cy Young winner in the National League. I just think that's kind of easy too. I know Logan Webb's kind of up there, and he just had a bad opener against the Yankees, but that's just one game. The easy one is going to be Paul Skeens for that. So now World Series picks. I'm gonna go rematch from last year. Dodgers Toronto, but this year Toronto wins the World Series. So that's my World Series prediction. Same matchup, but Toronto wins it this year. So, but yeah, it's again, baseball, as much as I love football, and football is still number one. Packers are still number one in my power rankings. But baseball will always have a special heart, I think, or a special spot in our hearts for a lot of people. And it's an amazing time of year. Really quick Brewers wise, I know Brandon and I are going to do a Brewers theme one. I kind of tease it. Like I said, I got them in the postseason. I do think they're going to be a wild card team. You know what? That'll be the tease, because I want to save our conversation with Brandon for tomorrow and such for our podcast. But back to baseball here, just to kind of wrap it up a little bit. It's from whether you played it at T-ball, Little League, high school, college, summer rec, summer ball, adults, now you coach youth. It's, baseball is a worldwide sport. We saw it in the World Baseball Classic, where I think it's one of the very few worldwide sports where it's so evenly balanced in terms of talent across the world. It's still America's pastime here, as much as we kind of gripe about it with, money wise. It's interesting because, if you're not a Dodgers fan, or you're not a fan of one of the bigger spending teams, you probably have a lot of frustrating parts to it or points to it. But when it comes to the game and it might be the game itself, I know a lot of people are still picking the Dodgers and such, but of all of the sports out there too, when we talk about the great equalizer, when you look at all these sports, is the game itself the greatest equalizer in all these sports? Like, you could, football, basketball, I feel like you got a couple really good players that could carry you a long way. Football, you kind of need that great quarterback, and you need, maybe a really good defense and a couple weapons over there. Baseball, yeah, Dodgers are loaded up with talent. But they could still not, if you pick the Dodgers or the field, I think I'm still picking the field. I feel like compared to all the other sports out there, the greatest equalizer, regardless of how talented you are, is the game itself. Depending on where the ball bounces, how the, pitching and all that. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's what's unique about baseball too, maybe more so than any other game. So, hey, get the brats going, get the grills going, get the tailgate parties going, man. It is baseball season, and enjoy it. All right, enjoy it. That's going to do it for us for this episode of the Man Cave podcast. Don't forget, if you could, be a friend, tell a friend, share it on your socials. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple, 5-star rating on Spotify. And please, if you are listening on Apple, if you don't mind, please give us a nice comment review on Apple, because that helps others find the podcast. And really, we could, if you're watching the video version of this podcast on YouTube, ring that little bell for following and subscribing, because we've got new videos coming out, like Game On, the first one. Speaking of baseball, I took a little BP, because they say the hardest thing to do in sports is to hit a fastball. Well, we put it to the test there. So we got that. We've got a new video series called Tailgate Talk coming out. So obviously the radio show broadcast is on there too. Kid Cave is on there too. Would really appreciate if you can look up on YouTube Man Cave TV, or just go to youtube.com/@Dan Kasper and click that notification bell on there to follow and subscribe. That's going to do it for us. Enjoy the games. Enjoy some baseball today, peeps. I'm Dan Kasper, and I'll talk to you on the next episode of the Man Cave Podcast.